All right, so today we're diving deep on something pretty wild. What if everything about us, like our desires and values, even our sense of self, comes from like the trillions of cells that make us us?
It's a question that's had philosophers and scientists scratching their heads for ages, and with these lectures on consciousness, we've got a lot to unpack.
Yeah, we're going deep down the rabbit hole today.
Yeah.
We're talking about how single cells manage to stay alive, without a brain, and then how neurons, those communication specialists, changed everything.
And we'll be looking at whether our values, everything from basic survival instincts to, more complex desires, are actually rooted in ancient biological mechanisms. And if they are, well, that raises some big questions about free will.
So let's go back way back billions of years to those first eukaryotic cells, the foundation of all plants and animals, right?
Right. And something people often forget is that they didn't just evolve through competition, but through collaboration. Like these simple bacteria joined forces and made something way more complex.
So like the first life forms were all about teamwork, makes the dream work way before we were.
Exactly. It's what led to different cells taking on different roles, like specialization. Just like in a society. And eventually you get tissues, organs, whole systems working together to keep an organism alive.
So we're basically walking, talking societies of trillions of cells.
Whoa.
That's a lot to think about.
It is. And every single one of those cells has a history that goes all the way back to the beginning of life. But here's what's really interesting. Even single cells without a brain or a nervous system, they still have this drive to survive.
Wait, okay, how does something so simple have that drive? It's not like a single cell is thinking like, oh, I better stay away from that toxin over there.
No, you're right. It's not conscious thought. The lectures call it cellular intentionality. It's like a will to live that's built into life itself.
So they just know what to do to stay alive.
Exactly. They adapt, they make what seem like complex decisions, all to reach their potential.
So this primal urge to survive, this will to live, it's not something we develop later on. It's like built in from the beginning.
That's the idea. It comes before consciousness, and it might even be the basis of all our motivations and values. We even see hints of this in simple organisms like nematodes.
Nematodes, those tiny worms. What can they tell us about human values?
Well, even with their very simple nervous systems, they change their behavior depending on whether food is scarce or if there's danger. It's a basic form of risk-reward calculation.
So even a worm is like weighing the pros and cons. Is that tasty morsel worth the risk of getting eaten?
Not consciously, but their behavior suggests there's some system for figuring out what's good or bad for survival, like a pre-programmed set of values.
Wow, okay, so we've got this ancient drive to survive woven into every cell, but we're not just single cells anymore, right? So how did we get from there to the complexity of human beings?
That's where neurons come in. Millions of years after those first cells, a new type of cell appeared. The neurons specialized for communication changed everything.
Brain cells, the ones that let us think, feel, and experience the world.
Yes, but they do so much more than just thinking. They send signals to other cells, neurons, muscles, glands, basically coordinating everything that keeps us alive.
Like they're running the whole show,
Right.
making sure all the different systems are working together. But how did they evolve from regular cells? That seems like such a huge leap.
It was. And it took millions of years. The theory is they developed from cells that could change shape and extend tube-like structures, kind of like amoebas.
So they took this basic cellular ability and turned it into a superpower for communication.
Oh,
That's amazing. And
Huh.
all of this ties back to homeostasis, right? That constant balancing act our bodies do.
you got it. Like when you sweat to cool down when you're hot, that's homeostasis in action. It's your body constantly trying to keep everything running smoothly, maintaining a stable internal environment.
Right. Regulating temperature, pH levels, nutrients, all that stuff. We don't even think about it until things are out of whack.
Exactly. And those uncomfortable feelings you get when things are off, those are signals. Reminders that your systems are working to bring things back into balance. And this drive to stay balanced, it's encoded in our genes, passed down for billions of years.
So it's not just about individual cells surviving. It's about the whole system staying in equilibrium. It's almost like the organism itself has this will to live, right?
That's a great way to put it. But if this drive is so deeply ingrained, does it affect our values? I mean, could the things we consider important actually be tied to these ancient biological mechanisms?
That's a pretty wild thought. So you're saying our values could be driven by this need for stability inside our bodies. Like our cells are calling the shots on what we find important.
It's a possibility these lectures explore. Maybe even our most abstract values stem from that primal need to keep things balanced.
So basic needs like food, shelter, safety, those all tie back to survival,
Yeah.
keeping the system in balance. Makes sense.
Exactly. But it gets really interesting when we start thinking about things that aren't as essential, like love, success, even money. Where do those fit in?
Okay, now I'm curious. How can those complex values be linked back to basic biology? It's not like money is a nutrient my cells need.
Maybe not directly, but the lecture suggests that even those complex values could be offshoots of that primal drive to thrive.
So my need for financial security, for example, is just a fancy version of my cells wanting a steady supply of sugar.
It's more nuanced than that. But think about it. Money helps us get food, shelter, security, the very things our bodies need.
So money becomes a symbol for those basic needs, and those needs are rooted in biology.
Exactly. Our values, even the complex ones, might just be a reflection of that ancient biological imperative playing out on a massive scale within society.
Okay, I see the connections now. Even our complex economic systems are rooted in those ancient drives to survive and thrive.
And it goes beyond just economics. Think about the values we hold as a society: cooperation, compassion, fairness. These all contribute to the stability of the group, which ultimately benefits everyone in it.
So we're taking cellular homeostasis and applying it to entire societies. Like it's this massive group project to create an environment where everyone can thrive. But are we saying it's all just biology? What about free will? If our values are rooted in our bodies, are we just puppets to our genes?
That's the million-dollar question, and one we'll definitely need to explore further. But these lectures offer a way to reconcile biology and free will.
Okay, because right now it feels like my biology might be dictating everything. How can we have free will if it's all based on these ancient mechanisms?
That's what we'll dive into next. Stay with us.
Okay, so we left off with this big question. If our values come from our biology, does that mean we're all just puppets to our genes? Like, where does free will even fit into all of this?
It's a question that's been around forever, but these lectures suggest biology might not be the whole story. You see, they say our biology kind of sets the stage, but our conscious minds, they give us the power to choose how we act on those biological urges.
So it's not so black and white. It's not like nature versus nurture. It's more like they work together.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Our genes might give us the blueprint, but it's our experiences, our culture, and ultimately our choices that determine how that blueprint actually turns out.
So we're not just robots running on DNA code. We can actually think about our values, make choices, and kind of forge our own paths.
Absolutely. We can override or at least fine-tune those primal instincts based on what we learn throughout life.
That's what makes us human, right?
Mhm.
Our creativity, our compassion, our sense of right and wrong.
Exactly. It's not just our biology calling the shots. It's more like biology lays the foundation, and then our consciousness goes from there and builds something truly amazing.
I like that.
Yeah.
So how does this all tie back to our brains and how they map the world? We talked about this a bit earlier, but I'm still not totally clear on how it all works.
Well, remember homeostasis, that balancing act our bodies are always doing.
Right, like sweating to cool down.
Yeah.
Our bodies are constantly trying to stay balanced.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that our feelings, our emotions are actually deeply connected to this whole process.
Really, I always thought emotions were separate from like my physical state.
It might seem that way, but emotions are actually feedback mechanisms that are totally tied to homeostasis, like pleasure signals that we're in a good place, while discomfort or pain tells us something's off and we need to pay attention.
So you're saying like my feelings, whether I'm happy or sad, are linked to whether my basic needs are being met. It's more than just a mood swing.
It's like a feedback loop. You get hungry, you feel uncomfortable, it motivates you to eat. Once you eat, that discomfort goes away and you feel pleasure.
Okay, even that basic example shows how our emotions are rooted in our biology. Like my body's constantly giving me feedback on how things are going.
And that connection between our internal state and our emotions, it plays a huge role in how our brains actually map the world.
So how does our brain map the world? Is it like creating an internal GPS?
That's a pretty good analogy. Our brains are always building incredibly detailed maps of our surroundings so we can navigate effectively.
So it's not just taking in information. It's actively processing it and making sense of what we experience.
Exactly, and it's not a fixed map. It's constantly being updated with new information. Our brains are amazing at comparing what's coming in through our senses to the maps they've already created.
So my brain's always looking for patterns, making predictions, and even filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
Like if I walk into a room I've been in before, my brain's already expecting what I'm going to see.
Exactly. Your brain has a map of that room based on past experiences, and it's always checking if what you're seeing matches that map.
And if something's different,
Yeah.
like if the furniture's been rearranged, my brain would flag that, right?
Yeah.
Like saying, hold on a second, this isn't what I predicted.
Exactly. Your brain's looking for differences between its predictions and reality, and when it finds one, it updates the map.
It's like we're always refining our understanding of the world,
Yeah.
but we're not just mapping our physical surroundings, right?
You're right. We're also mapping our internal world, our emotions and physical sensations. Like, think about a time you felt anxious.
Yeah, okay. My heart racing, feeling tense, maybe even a little nauseous.
Your brain maps all those sensations. And over time, it learns to associate those feelings with anxiety.
So next time I feel those physical sensations, my brain might already be expecting that I'm about to feel anxious, like my body's giving me a heads up.
And that prediction can actually influence how you think, feel, and behave. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You might start feeling anxious just because your brain expects you to.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how these maps and predictions can shape our experience. It's like our brains are always telling us stories about what's happening both inside and out.
Exactly. And those narratives, those stories, they're a big part of what we experience as consciousness.
So consciousness isn't just about knowing what's around us, it's also about the stories our brains are telling us.
Think of consciousness as this tapestry woven from those maps, predictions, and narratives. It's what turns all that data into a coherent experience.
So like consciousness is the movie playing in our minds, and our brains are writing and revising the script based on what they learn.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. And the script's always changing based on new experiences and information. This ability to weave together all those threads, the maps, the predictions, the stories, that's what helps us make sense of the world and where we fit in. It's what lets us think abstractly, reflect on our experiences, and plan for the future.
So consciousness isn't just passively experiencing the world, it's about engaging with it, questioning our assumptions, and exploring new possibilities.
Exactly. It gives us this amazing freedom and flexibility. We're not just reacting to the world, we're interacting with it, shaping it even.
That's a really important point. Consciousness gives us choices that we wouldn't have otherwise. It's like we're not just reacting to the world, we're actually interacting with it, shaping it.
Exactly. It lets us question our assumptions, imagine different possibilities, and make choices that go beyond just following our urges. It's this incredible dance between our biology and our conscious minds that creates the richness and complexity of human experience.
So we've gone from single cells with the basic will to live to this amazing tapestry of consciousness, mapping the world, telling stories, making choices. It's like we've traced the evolution of awareness itself. Pretty mind-blowing.
It really is, and it shows just how complex and incredible our brains are. We've seen how those ancient mechanisms for survival, those basic drives to seek pleasure and avoid pain, have become the system that allows us to experience the world in all its wonder and complexity.
It's amazing to think all of this is happening inside our heads all the time.
Well,
We're
it-
literally watching around with these miniature universes in our skulls.
Constantly mapping, predicting, creating this whole experience of reality. But here's another fascinating question. If our brains are so powerful individually, how does all of this play out on a larger scale? How does it shape societies? How do our individual maps and predictions influence the world we create together?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely need to unpack. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we've been on this incredible journey from single cells to brains to consciousness, and how our brains are always mapping and predicting to help us navigate the world. But you left us with this big question about how this all works on like a societal level.
It is a big jump, isn't it? Going from those tiny cellular mechanisms to something as vast and complex as a civilization.
Yeah, it feels like a huge leap. How can what's happening inside my brain possibly connect to how societies function?
Well, the lectures suggest that culture is kind of like a magnifying glass. It takes those basic biological mechanisms we've been talking about, like mapping, predicting, valuing, and amplifies them. It creates shared values, beliefs, and practices that go way beyond individual survival.
So it's like we're all contributing to this massive collective map of how to be human, how to live together.
That's a great way to think about it. And those shared maps are reflected in the systems we create. Economies, religions, social structures, these aren't just random ideas. They're deeply rooted in our biology.
Okay, I can kind of see, though, with social structures like laws and rules. They create order predictability, which reduces stress and probably helps us survive. But what about something like the stock market? That seems so abstract. How could that possibly connect back to basic survival instincts?
You might be surprised. At its core, the stock market is just a system for exchanging goods and services. People are constantly evaluating what's worth their time, money, and energy based on how much they think it'll benefit them.
So we're always doing this internal cost-benefit analysis, just like our ancestors might have weighed the risks and rewards of going out to hunt.
Exactly. And those decisions are still, in a way, driven by that ancient drive to survive and thrive. We're wired to seek out what we perceive as beneficial and avoid what we see as harmful. whether it's a dangerous predator or a risky investment.
So even our complex economic systems, as different as they might seem from hunting and gathering, are still built on those same primal foundations.
It's like we've built this incredibly elaborate system, but the underlying motivations haven't really changed all that much. We're still driven by those core needs and desires, even if they're expressed in very different ways.
And it's not just about economies. Think about religions. They offer explanations for the big mysteries of life, provide comfort during tough times, and give a sense of purpose and meaning.
All of which contribute to a sense of well-being and security. So even though religions might seem abstract and spiritual, they still address very real human needs, needs that are rooted in our biology. They offer stability and order in a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable.
It's like we're compelled to create meaning and order out of chaos. It makes you wonder if that impulse is also part of how our brains are wired.
It's a fascinating idea. And then there are social structures, laws, traditions, hierarchies, all those systems we create to organize ourselves into groups.
And those systems promote cooperation, create a sense of belonging, and help us navigate the complexities of social life.
Which makes us safer and increases our chances of survival. It's like having a shared roadmap for how to behave in a group, and that predictability reduces stress and makes us feel more secure.
And that feeling of belonging, that sense of connection, triggers the release of those feel-good chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, right, which makes us want to stay connected to the group.
Exactly. It reinforces those social bonds and behaviors, making us more likely to cooperate and support each other, which benefits the group as a whole. It's a beautiful example of how our individual biology contributes to the success of the collective.
So it's not just that our brains create maps and predictions, it's that those individual maps and predictions actually influence how we create and interact with these larger systems that shape entire societies.
It's this fascinating dance of feedback loop between biology and culture. They're constantly influencing and shaping each other. Our biology influences the systems we create, and then those systems in turn shape our behavior and even our values.
This whole deep dive has been amazing. It's giving me a whole new perspective on why we do the things we do, both as individuals and as societies. It's like we're getting this behind-the-scenes look at human nature, seeing those connections between the ancient mechanisms in our brains and this vast, complex world we've built.
And it's a perspective that can offer us a sense of both awe and hope. Awe at the incredible power and complexity of the human brain, and hope in knowing that even our most challenging problems, from economic inequality to climate change, are ultimately rooted in the same basic human needs and desires.
Yeah, if we can understand those underlying drivers, those shared needs and desires, maybe we can find new and creative ways to tackle these challenges and create a better future for everyone.
I think that's a great takeaway. It's a reminder that we're all connected not just to each other, but to this incredible history of life on Earth. And that connection, that shared heritage, has the potential for immense creativity, resilience, and hope.
It's been an incredible journey exploring those connections from those first single cells to the complex tapestry of human consciousness.
And to our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep exploring the amazing world around us and within us.
Absolutely. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of your own mind.